So every day something or the other happens which affirms the journalism of Janta Ka Reporter. This is the power of truth, which can never be suppressed. However much you try, you cannot suppress the truth. Remember how often have I said from this platform that war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu simply doesn't care about Israeli hostages who are currently in the captivity of Hamas in Gaza. The chap is a monster. He will not spare anyone, not even his own people, to achieve his political goal. Now, even Israeli politicians have begun attacking Netanyahu with the same charges. Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid has said that Netanyahu was trying to derail, mark his word, derail the Gaza ceasefire and detainee exchange talks, which is the exchange of hostages. He added that Netanyahu's, and his words, attempts to sabotage the negotiations should stop. That's the Israeli opposition leader wrote on X, formerly known as Twitter. This is what his tweet read, and I quote, "Enough with the briefings, enough with the tweets, enough with the rhymes in front of cameras. All of Netanyahu's attempts to sabotage the negotiations should stop." And he continues, "Deal now," he says, "before they all die." That's his words. These are the words of an Israeli politician, not mine. They simply confirm what I have been saying all along. I told you yesterday that those 6 hostages whose bodies were recovered from Khan Yunus were actually murdered by Israeli terrorists, also known as the IDF or IOF. And who do you think would have ordered the IDF to murder these hostages? Of course, it's not a rocket science to know that it was Netanyahu. Then a report by Israeli newspaper Haaretz said exactly the same. Quoting an unnamed source, the Israeli newspaper Haaretz has said that Netanyahu is, and I quote, "once again sabotaging the talks for the release of the hostages." In other words, Netanyahu is simply not interested in the release of those hostages. The source, according to the newspaper, said, and I quote, "his statements indicating that Israel would not withdraw from the Gaza-Egypt border at a time when sensitive negotiations are underway for finding a solution there only make it more difficult to find a solution, increasing suspicions, signaling to Hamas and the mediators that Netanyahu is uninterested in a deal." End of quote. Now here is another twist to the story. According to a report by Reuters, which quoted another platform, Axios, that Netanyahu is doing this at the behest of Donald Trump. According to the report, first published by Axios, then carried by Reuters news agency, Trump has asked Netanyahu in his recent phone call to not say yes to any ceasefire until the US presidential elections have taken place, which is scheduled to be held in November this year. Trump, according to the report, fears that the ceasefire in Gaza will help Kamala Harris win the election. This claim was repeated by the PBS host Judy Woodruff.
And we know that Secretary of State Blinken is over there right now working with Netanyahu. The reporting is that former President Trump is on the phone with the Prime Minister of Israel, urging him not to cut a deal right now because it's believed that would help the Harris campaign. So I don't know where that, I don't know, who knows whether that will come about or not. But I have to think that the Harris campaign would like for President Biden to do what presidents do, which is work on that one.
Yeah.
And maybe there's some other domestic issues that, they'd like to see come home.
Now, of course, Woodruff has since apologized, saying that her claim was not based on original reporting. Trump has also denied the allegation, fearing that this would invoke the Logan Act against him, which, if proven, can send him to jail for 3 years. So what's the Logan Act? In a nutshell, this act prevents a politician from holding any talks with a foreign government over any international disputes by overriding the power of the existing government. Now, the law came into force in 1799, and only two people, mind you, two people have been charged since then with zero convictions. And of course, you don't expect Democrats to take a moral high ground against Trump when the current Biden regime itself has flouted the Leahy laws to allow Israelis to use American weapons to kill Palestinians. Now, this Gaza conflict to me has done few good things. It has busted the myth surrounding American claims on democracy, international rule of law, and freedom of speech. It has also exposed the Western media outlets such as the New York Times and even the Guardian of the United Kingdom. There was a time when the annual report on religious freedom and democracy index would be taken seriously by countries around the world. Just imagine the kind of reaction to such claims by American politicians on these topics in the future, in the wake of their participating role in the Gaza genocide. And as journalists, we took the reporting of the New York Times and Guardian extremely seriously. They were hugely respected, they were highly respected around the world. But their dubious role in amplifying the Zionist narrative and failure to hold Israeli accountable during this conflict over the raging genocide in Gaza has exposed even these so-called liberal brands. And end loser in this game of genocide is, of course, humanity. Humanity of the world in general and American and the West in particular. People in the UK and the US may be suffering from extreme poverty and homelessness since the governments in these two countries simply don't have enough resources to help them. But these two countries have billions to fund wars in Ukraine and Israel.
Mr. Speaker, I'm glad in our exchanges so far we have maintained a cross-party consensus on important matters of foreign policy. And in that spirit today, I wanted to focus our exchange on Ukraine and national security. The UK has consistently been the first country to provide new capabilities to Ukraine, such as the long-range weapons that have been used so effectively in the Black Sea. Now, those decisions aren't easy, and I was grateful to the Prime Minister for his support as I made those decisions in government. And in opposition, I offer that same support to him. So can I ask that he continues to be responsive to Ukraine's new requests so that they don't just stand still, but can decisively win out against Russian aggression?
Can I thank the Leader of the Opposition for not only raising the question of Ukraine, but doing it in a way which can maintain the unity across this House, which has been so important to the Ukrainian people. And I can assure him that we are, of course, talking to Ukraine about how they deal with the Russian aggression that they are facing, have been facing for many, many months. And I will continue to try to do that in the way that he did, which is to reach out across the House to share such information as we can to maintain the unity that is so important.
What will it take for the public of these two countries to rise against their corrupt politicians? That's $1 million question. That's it from me now. I have been overwhelmed by your support for my journalism on buymecoffee.com. Please continue to support fearless journalism there. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.